everyone, it's Donna here from Succeed with Dyslexia, and I've got another fantastic guest with me. It's Neil Ryland from Scanning Pens. Hi Neil, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi Donna, you're welcome.
Hi, well I'm really excited about this because I do a lot of work with individuals in the workplace and adults in general, and I think what you're going to show us during our chat is really interesting for people like me to find out more about these great products. Before we get going, I just want to give you an introduction. Obviously, you're Neil, and it's great to have you with us. And you are the Business Development Manager for the commercial team at Scanning Pens. And you've been there for about 4 years, Neil, is that right?
Yeah, so I come about 4 years ago into Scanning Pens, and we were looking at going into other markets. Obviously, historically, we've always been in the education sector, where obviously we've got our pens that work there very well. But dyslexia and reading issues don't stop when you leave education. So obviously, we're looking now at going into these other areas. So I've been working alongside the manufacturers, and we've developed pens especially for this market. So yeah, as you say, I've been here 4 years, and we're now looking at helping people in the workplace after they've lost all of that support, because quite often, you know, when they've gone through education, they've had human readers, they've had all this extra support, maybe going through university even, and then they get a job and it's gone.
Yes. Yeah. I know, and I think the pen is a great tool to help folks navigate through the variety of ways that they use it. And you're going to show us now the latest innovations and the different ways that people can use it and so on. So I'm going to share my slides, and you're going to talk us through them, if that's okay, Neil.
Yeah, of course.
So this is where we get very nervous about the technology. So let's fingers crossed, because I'm not the best. Let's make sure that we share. So let me just tee it up. Does that look okay? Perfect. So let me press from the beginning, and there you are with your job title and so on. So just let me know when you're ready to change slides, Neil, and we'll get going. This is really interesting.
Basically, what I'm going to do to you today is introduce the new pen for the workplace mainly. We call it the ReaderPen Secure. And the reason for that is we've identified that, you know, there is a need for a pen that doesn't store data, so that in workplaces where there might be literature that they can't take outside the workplace, for instance, a midwife reading some patient's notes, for instance, you know, that they are confidential. So we've come up with the ReaderPen Secure as a GDPR compliant tool. It allows the person using it to adhere to data protection. So yeah, if you'd move on to the next slide, we'll quickly go over where we got to. So this is all of the pens that we currently supply at Scanning Pens. And you've got the ReaderPen there, the white one on the left-hand side. That's the main pen that we sell into the education, and it's our all singing, all dancing pen, if you like. It's got all of these storage, dictaphone capabilities, etc. And then on the far right, you've got the exam reader, bright orange, so that it's identifiable by people, adjudicators in exams, for instance. But that doesn't have any data storage. It can only read out printed text. So what we needed was a pen that was a combination of both of those, so that you still had the dictionary definition, but you lose all that storage capability. That then gives the user still, you know, text-to-speech function, and to be able to hear and comprehend with a dictionary definition without that then being stored. So as soon as they leave that screen or clear the text, it's nowhere to be stored. So obviously compliant, therefore, with data protection. So just to the left of that, you can see the blue one, the ReaderPen Secure, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Donna, if you can move on to the next slide for me.
No problem.
So literally, the ReaderPen Secure has these three features. It's got the text reader, which will read out in English, French, and Spanish, full text-to-speech, and you can use headphones. It's got the standard jack for a headphone. We supply the little in the earbuds, or it can obviously read it from the pen itself. It's got the full Collins Dictionary. It's also got the Oxford Primary Dictionary built in for the UK, but it's got French, Spanish dictionaries available as well if you're reading and scanning in those languages. And then the only other setting is the settings, and that's where you can just set the pen to the desired needs of the individual. So left or right-handed, how fast you want the text to be read out, whether you want a pause after punctuation. Everyone's got their own little preferences. So obviously we're quite aware of this at Scanning Pens, and we've got these little settings whereby you can make it, just right for that individual. And it's fairly simple. If you've set it up for one person and then somebody else needs it, you can just quickly run through a setup wizard and change all of those settings again. So literally that's all you have on the pen: the text to speech, the dictionary, and the settings. If you can move on to the next one for me, Donna. So where can that then be used? So obviously neurodiversities and dyslexia, as I mentioned earlier, they don't stop when you go into the workplace. You've gone through education, you've gone through all of this support, and you're now in the big wide world, and you're having to maybe disclose to your bosses that you have dyslexia, and you can go through various different things to get that support. There's lots of other devices out there that will read out printed text from computer screens, and obviously that's ideal for the workplace, but there's still going to be printed material that you need to read: training materials, health and safety document, instruction manuals, or even internal exams if you're progressing up through the police ranks or the fire brigade, for instance. You may not have a lot of paperwork on your daily job, but if you start with that progression, you have to go through all of these extra courses. And that's quite often when people have to identify to their employers that actually they are dyslexic, and, they need that extra support to get through those exams. And that's where this pen can come in, in handy in the workplace for those specific reasons mainly. If you can go on to the next one, Donna. So just to give an example, we have a fantastic video here of a firefighter called Safan. He was identified because, as I've just mentioned, he was going through his progression within the fire service, and he got identified as having dyslexia during that process. So obviously they went through the relevant processes, they went through access to work, and he got assessed, and he got allocated equipment along with the ReaderPen Secure. He also had stuff for reading off of printed text, or off of computer text, and that enabled him to be able to have that confidence to progress. The video link is on this, so we can obviously send that out to anyone that wants it. And it is a really emotive video because it just goes to show how if you give somebody that support they need, how that confidence then helps them progress up. If you can go on to the next one for me, Donna. So we also provide lots of resources. We don't just supply the pens, we also want to make sure that they're implemented properly. So we have lots of implementation and user guides. So basically, if, for instance, you're in a police force going through your initial training, we will have trained the trainers. And the idea being is that they will then be able to help you use the pen, and they would have these implementation guides that we produce specifically to help them to train you on how to use the pen if you've never used it before. Or it may be that you've used the pens in education, but you can't use those pens in the workplace because of data protection. And obviously, therefore, you're using a slightly different pen than what you may be used to, so they can talk you through those changes. And if you can just go on from the last one, I think now, Donna. So the other sort of resources we produce, now this one specifically I produced for the prison market. Obviously, I've had some good success in there for the last few years. Unfortunately, a lot of prisoners have a very high literacy or dyslexia rate. I think it's 57% of them. And I brought to my attention, that if a prisoner's got a pen in cell, they're not going to be able to read the manual that comes in the box. So we needed a very quick guide to help them pick up the pen and be able to use it in a short space of time. So you've got 6 steps on that, and literally you follow the step 1 through to step 6. And by then you've set the pen up for your preference yourself, and you've gone through all the other little changes you may want to put on. And then you can actually use the pen to scan over the text in box 6 and get the hints and tips read out to you. And that's also your practicing of using the pen. So it's a very quick guide, but also a very useful guide for that sort of circumstance. Okay, I think that was the end of the presentation, Donna. We'll just
Thank you,
check
Neil.
on
That was
that.
so informative. I'll stop sharing the slides. Brilliant. I mean, I've been aware of the ReaderPen for a while, but it just shows how you've evolved the product. It looks, better than ever, which is really exciting, actually. Just a few questions from me then. And if we need to share the slides again, if you want to look back at something, that's fine. By the way, I love the idea of the video. I think to see a real person using it in their workplace is so informative, isn't it? I'm looking forward to looking at that myself. Font sizes and so on. Sometimes in work you get these big documents through, tiny, tiny font. Can the pen pick up anything and everything, or is there kind of some guidelines it needs? I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it.
Yeah, well, it's exactly that. And really, if you look at the tips on the pen there, right at the top, that's really the sort of guide that you're looking at. It can scan anything that fits in those 2 points. So it won't go large text. I think it goes up to 22 font size. But it will pick up really small, down to 7. As long as the bottom pin is under the line you're scanning, it will pick up that small print. I suggest with small print you do it a little bit slower to make sure you don't scan too quick. But generally, yes, it can go from size 7 up to 22 on font. And really, obviously, you don't need the pen for anything bigger than 22 because it's pretty much in your face anyway, so to speak.
Yeah. That's great to know it goes so small, because sometimes it really is tricky to read very tiny print in that way.
It is, and I've got bad eyesight myself, so reading, small text is pretty bad. So if you can get something to read it out for you, even if you don't have dyslexia, it comes in handy.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Neil. The other silly question, but I'm just wondering. So you've scanned something. Do you need to wear headphones? How do you get the sound in that way when the pen's doing its job?
So the pen's set that when you scan over the printed text and lift it off, so it's got a little button here which lights up as you're scanning over text. As soon as you lift that off, it will start reading out the printed text for you. Now that's either going to come out through the speaker at the top of the pen itself.
So it's got a speaker. Brilliant.
Or you've got a headphone jack. Most people nowadays have their own style of headphones they like. Nowadays it's mainly the Bluetooth ones.
Yes.
But however, in a workplace, depending on the environment you're in, you might need some bigger noise cancelling headphones so that you don't hear everything else around you. That will all fit into the standard jack. Now, the pen itself, because it's secure, doesn't have Bluetooth. So obviously it's not able to connect to anything. But you can buy little Bluetooth headset jacks, which will fit into the port, and that will then connect to your Bluetooth headsets. So it's only that connection, not from the pen itself. So the pen still then has that secure feature, and you're only transmitting via the Bluetooth on that little adapter. But yes, if you're in a room by yourself, you don't need the headphones. You can listen to it from the actual pen itself.
Brilliant. And whereabouts is the pen being used then these days? You talked about your very rich heritage with the offending population and so on. And these are all issues about reader pens and so on that, for somebody like me, I don't necessarily think about the security aspect, how it's being used and so on. That's why it's great to know you guys are thinking in this way. So where else is the pen being used?
Yeah, so funny enough, it was I was having some meetings initially with businesses and, talking about the ReaderPen, and straight away we established data protection was going to be a problem. If I was talking to somebody in the MOD or in the police, there's certainly data there they don't want, but, transmitted outside of that room, so to speak. So really that's what got me having the conversations with our manufacturers, and we said we needed a pen that didn't store that data but still needed to have the basic features. So we come up with the ReaderPen Secure for those markets specifically. So prison market, as we mentioned, also fire brigades, police forces, MOD. So anywhere really where you've got secure data, and that doesn't have to be, those sort of organizations I've mentioned. It could just be any business,
Yes.
Whereby, you don't want any of your competitors getting hold of anything. So
Yeah.
anywhere really where data needs to be secure, the pen can be used. We've even had the pen tested, if you like, for security. HMPPS have authorised it because of the use in prisons. Now, you can imagine they had some big questions about the security of the pen, not just that whether it stored data. They even wanted to know if it was able to back charge a mobile phone, which again is things you don't think about in everyday life, but obviously in their environment it was quite important. So we've had that testing completed, and obviously that's gone through there. We've had it tested by the Navy down in one of their suppliers, so Babcock, who deal with a lot of the Navy training. They've authorised it to be used within their training environments in obviously quite secure data within the Navy sort of thing. So basically we've proven to them that the pen does what it says. It's just literally for reading out printed text. It can't store anything, and therefore the name's secure. And we just changed it to a nicer colour so that it was more for the workplace. But all of this is from feedback from people I've spoken to and from other organisations who've said to us, this is what we need. And obviously we can see that those markets therefore are there, and we will go and get those changes made and get the pens produced. So this is produced specifically for the workplace, police, fire, uniform sector, as I like to call it, or anywhere where the data needs to be stored securely.
It's brilliant. It's great to hear that you guys are so responsive in that way to people reaching out and saying, hey, can we have this, and you go away and make that happen. And you're right, Neil, actually nowadays, and I think it's increasingly so, yes, when we think about secure data, we do think about all those wonderful folks in our blue light services and so on. But actually, more and more in other roles that we all do, data is so precious now, isn't it? I think it's almost going to be a matter of standard, because if you think about the legal profession, the medical profession, there's so many business, like you say, nervous about things leaking out to competitors and so on. It's a great idea what you've put together. And I guess the first place the idea happened in the request was the emergency services and the armed forces and so on. But it benefits, I think, a lot of folks actually beyond those roles.
It does. And I actually had a midwife contact me who had gone through her assessment. She obviously had been told she was dyslexic, and she's reading patients' notes. Midwife's notes are all printed. They go out and visit at home, and obviously they handwrite stuff which the pens don't pick up on, but the actual stuff in the notes, a lot of it's printed.
Yes.
And she needed a pen obviously to read those notes, but you couldn't then take that pen out and if it stores that information. So she had the ReaderPen Secure, and she's loving it. She's able to now use the pen obviously out and about, and she doesn't even mind using it in front of her patients, because she discloses the fact she's got dyslexia, and hence why she's using the pen. But she explains to them that it's not going to store anything that it's reading, and they're happy. So it's brilliant.
I think it's brilliant. And like you say, if you're comfortable to have it on the speaker, but if you don't want it, you've got the headphones, so you can just for your ears only as well, isn't it? I love it. Now, we've got a really exciting part of our chat now, and it's always exciting when we use technology in this way, because you're going to try and demo it using the camera that you've got attached to your computer. So I'll hand over to you, and you're going to show us a real life demo. So fingers crossed this is going to work, Neil.
Yeah, it should do. So bear with me a moment whilst I just change over my camera.
Yes, we can see it. Fantastic.
We can see it. Brilliant. That's always a bonus.
It is.
So I'm just quickly going to show the main feature on this and why it's called the Secure Pen. So you can see there, I just pressed one button, held it for a few seconds, and it's turning the pen on. So it's very similar to our other products in that's exactly how you turn it on. And then you literally have the text reader as the very first option. And underneath that, you've got definition, so dictionary definition, and then the settings. That is it, the 3 menus on there. But what I want to show you is if I go to a text reader and click on that, I'm now ready to scan some text. So I'm just going to scan over a little bit of text I've got printed in front of me. Now, you may not be able to hear that very well picking up on the camera mic, but obviously it's just read over and read that out to me.
Fantastic.
Now, whilst it's on screen, I can move about and I can replay and I can get dictionary definition of that text that's on the screen now. But the second I go to do another scan, so if I back out and go to text reader, it's gone. Nothing's stored.
Fantastic. Yeah.
But you can also scan over the text, and once you've scanned over it and had it read out to you and understood it, if you press the menu there, little menu, clear screen, it's gone.
Brilliant.
So it's not stored anywhere, and that's really what I wanted to show, the difference of the ReaderPen to the ReaderPen Secure. With the ReaderPen, that would have still been stored until you go to that option of clear screen. Even if you go out of scan and go back, it still holds the last scan on the screen.
Yeah.
This doesn't. This completely clears it off until, whilst you're obviously using the pen to get the definition or understand how that word sounds, whichever your need is. And whilst it's on the screen, you can do that. But as soon as you go to do another scan, it's cleared that out.
Brilliant.
And
Perfect.
if you have the pen set to obviously turn off after a few seconds of not being used, then that automatically clears the screen as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And that's really all I wanted to demonstrate.
Well, it's so beautifully user-friendly as well, isn't it? You know, it's lovely and clear, but so clever as well. I noticed when you were scanning the line, so that one where it says the pen is paused, that's 2 sentences together, but you kind of just scan them in a clump, the 2 sentences together. You don't have to do it line by line then, as long as the text fits into the 2 points that you showed us earlier. So for that where it's 2 lines together, you just scan that kind of all together, didn't you? If I was right in seeing it.
Well, what I actually do is I scan over 1 line.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
And then I can go straight over the next one again, and it will just add it
that
to.
Makes sure. Yeah. Fantastic.
Great. So it picks up what's in between those lines. So if you do, you could try and get those 2 lines together. But it's an OCR camera, so it's a optical character recognition camera, and that will pick up the characters. So if it's 2 together, it's going to get a bit confused. So what I recommend is you keep the text that you want to scan between the 2 points. We always sort of scan from just before the start of the sentence, and then go to just after, just to make sure you get all the punctuations and things like that.
Yes, fantastic.
But if you were doing that really small text we were talking about earlier, I don't think I've got any really small text on here. Oh, I might have. Let's have a quick check. So I've got some small text here. Let's see if it picks it up for us.
Oh, brilliant.
Now, I don't know if you can see that's the really small print.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So just show that as long as you've positioned the pen where you need it to pick up that text, it will pick it up.
Yeah, love it. It shows as well that for many of us, it's got lots of different uses, whether we have dyslexia or not, isn't it? Which is fantastic.
It is. And obviously, previously as a company, scanning pens, we started with our products for dyslexia.
Yes.
But we've evolved from there. We've now evolved to helping people with other neurodiversities who also have literacy issues.
Yes.
I hate using the word issues, but maybe having a lower reading age than that, and they like. And obviously the pens do help with that as well. They just help with that little bit of confidence, a little bit of helping with the understanding, and then you get the comprehension from the dictionary, and it just gives you that extra bit of an ease, especially in a quiet environment by yourself with the headphones. no problem at all.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, Neil. Thank you so much. I knew this was going to be a really interesting chat, and it was. Thank you. So before we say goodbye to you, if folks want to find out more, so we will share the slides that we've been showing on during our chat, and also the link to the video of that guy using the pen and so on. But if people still have some questions, I'm guessing they can just reach out to you and the Scanning Pens team
to
ask for more information.
Yeah, of course. My details are on the slide. So if anyone has any questions or any, just wants to even have a play with the pen and to see how it works, more than willing to speak to them. My contact number and my email address are on the slide, so feel free to contact me.
Well, I'm going to try and pop that back up again, Neil, but now let me find it. This is the joys of technology. We hadn't planned to do this, but I think it might be kind of useful. So let me just see if I can make this happen. We do this live.
Always dangerous doing things live.
It is, and unexpected, which is something. Oh, that's all it takes to get me in a tizzy. Right, let's see if I can do this. I'm up for the challenge. So we want to be from the beginning, because there it is. Fab. So if you are listening to this and you want to find out more, there's Neil's contact details, his email, his phone number, and so on. And yeah, it sounds like, Neil, that you're just on the other end of emails, happy to answer questions or feedback as well, by the sounds of it.
Of course, yeah. And this is what we mentioned, that we don't just sell the products, we're here to support and implement them as well. So we train the trainers. So I'm more than happy to arrange Zoom calls or go out to people and obviously have training sessions, because we find, the pens really work if they're known how to be used. And obviously we don't want people to just buy the pens and put them in a cupboard and not use them. Implementation is key, and if they're implemented properly, then obviously we get the best use out of them. And more than happy to offer any training, any support, and even just a general chat, just to any queries and feedback about the use. Definitely no problem at all.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Neil. Well, that just leads me to say a huge thank you and a goodbye, because, like I said, I knew it was going to be useful. It was useful for me to listen to it because of the types of people that I work with in the training department here at Succeed. It's a great resource, a great adjustment that folks can use. So thank you for your time. We're going to share lots of information on the back of this chat. And as I say, people can keep in touch. So that just leaves me to thank our listeners as well. I hope you found this as informative as I did, and you've watched me and Neil live use technology in that way and it worked, thank goodness. So yeah, let's keep talking, and please do keep in touch with us. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video as much as we did putting it together. Now we have some more fantastic content for you. Please feel free to click this link here and learn more about Jimmy Baldwin, the creator of a dyslexia browser Chrome extension, and what his motives were behind that. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.